Well, guys, I'm so glad we could sit down and have this important conversation about the prayer room, kind of where our prayer room has come from, the story it's been through, and then also, where the prayer room is going. There's so much God is doing in our prayer room. And so we just want to be able to explain all of that so clearly and talk about it together. So let's start with, your story. Prayer was always an important part of your walk with the Lord, but also since the beginning of the church, right?
Yes, exactly. So when the Lord sent us, to start a church, we understood that prayer is going to be key if the church is going to function, if it's going to work, especially in a place like Los Angeles. So prayer since day one in the church has been very important. Yeah. Actually, what was happening, we were praying, the traditional meetings with one guy prays and then the other and then the other. But I felt the need to grow in prayer. How can we pray better, longer, deeper? So that's when I had the chance to reconnect with my friend Benji Nunez, and he brought all of this teaching, on the end times, on prayer, Tabernacle of David. So that's what helped me and helped us as a church so much to growing in prayer. He came up with his guitar, him and his brother Sam, and they started leading worship in a way that was different. It was not just prayer, it was worship, it was prayer together. And for us was like wow, this is what we were looking for. So out of that understanding of this prayer that is delightful, that's when we started this prayer room, this house of prayer in 2009. And it was so beautiful because we felt that this is exactly what we were longing for, this place of prayer. And then this began as something small. People started to join, to feel this is what we are called. And then we became, part of this representing the Hispanic voice in the prayer movement in the nation. We connected with Lueng and other leaders. And it was so beautiful to understand that we have a voice, we have a part in this prayer movement that is not just local, but it's actually global.
And then fast forward, Dano and I step into the picture, and we began leading the prayer room last year in 2023. Yeah. And then we walk into this conversation, and this conversation about where the prayer room is going has been happening for the last 4 years. And in those 4 years, we, the leadership of our church, the pastors of our church were seeing the need to merge and unite the prayer room to the church more than ever. That it couldn't just be about a small group of people who were called to do this, but it was a call to the whole church. Yes,
that's exactly when we were able to understand, Billy Humphrey was very instrumental, also Michael Miller, bringing this teaching of the Tabernacle of David, but more in the context of the church. And also what Jesus said, obviously, was he says, my house shall be called the house of prayer. Yeah. So it's like, man, we have to understand that the church is the house of prayer, and the house of prayer is the church. So we were understanding how important it was for the Lord that his house, his church, will be called a house of prayer. So we were maturing in that sense. That's when you guys joined this conversation. How do we do this? The church, and the prayer room, the house of prayer can work together, serving the purpose of the Lord. And that's where this conversation took us 4 years, many meetings, how is this gonna look like? And that's when you guys join. And I'm so grateful that you guys are part of this, because you bring so much to this conversation.
Yeah, and then that's when the Lord gives Dano this new name. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we're in those meetings, having those conversations about, the role of the prayer room. What has it been, and now what does the Lord want it to be? And we're having, you guys remember, we're there talking together, and suddenly we get this imagery that just felt like it was from the Lord, because all of us were like, wow, that's it, and it was this image of the prayer room is like a heart, it's like the beating center of the church. It's like it's like supplying life to the rest of the church. It's kind of the expression of love of the body. And it's like this place where everything is flowing to and from, in the center of the church itself.
Yeah, and the prayer room is this place where we minister. The bride ministers to the Lord, and then the Lord ministers back to us. And it's not just about us. Then the Lord pours out his heart, and we make intercession for what's on his heart. We're praying for Israel. We're praying for our generation, our city, our nation, the second coming of Jesus. It's this place that it makes sense for it to be inside the body. And by even that imagery is the heart is inside the body. It's not outside. It's not a second house. It's inside. And it's doing what it's supposed to do and affecting and blessing the rest of the body. And so tell us then, after this image comes and we're seeing, how do we make this merge? How do we take the prayer room from outside the church and bring it inside? What happens? What does the Lord share with you? Yeah,
so like, you were just saying, like, we walked away from that meeting. I think all of us were like, surprised, shocked to, like, after this 4-year period of having those conversations, suddenly there's this clarity that comes through this symbolism. And so I walked away from that meeting just thinking about, man, what if the prayer room was named for that symbolism, of what the role of the prayer room is, what the Lord is emphasizing that it needs to be. And so I walked away just thinking about that. We didn't talk about it with anyone, we just kind of were thinking about it, praying about it, keeping it to ourselves. But then the Lord started to confirm that in different ways and very powerfully and surprisingly. There were 3 specific moments that really stood out to us. One of them was, we asked our staff in the prayer room to just fast and pray about this subject. Where do we feel the Lord is leading the prayer room? Not having told them anything about, this conversation and this symbol of the heart that we had found in that meeting. And one of our staff was saying that she just kept seeing this image. She couldn't get it out of her mind of the sanctuary of the church, and beneath it was this beating heart that was supplying, life to the ministries of the church. And we heard that and we were like, oh my gosh, it's
mind blowing.
Crazy, the Lord is confirming it. And we didn't tell her anything. So, she didn't even know that what she was saying was so key.
Yeah, and we didn't want this to be like our own thing, our own idea, but more like, Lord, lead us into how do we do this? We want to honor you. We want to be led by you.
Yeah, and that it doesn't have to look like 24/7, or it doesn't have to look like other ways. But the prayer room and the prayer culture that the Lord wants to establish in churches can be specific to what God's doing in their churches. Exactly. Like even for us, our prayer room doesn't look like any other prayer room. It's what it is. It's what the Lord wants to do in Los Angeles, in the San Fernando Valley. And I'm excited because I think that from this place, I'm excited to see the songs and the worship that God's gonna release, and who it's gonna touch. I think we have no idea, but we're really excited, and we just want to welcome everybody to our prayer room.
Yes.
Our official name now is Heartbeat, Houses of Light Prayer Room. So we welcome everyone, our community, our beautiful Hispanic community, and anybody else who's looking for a prayer room, wanting to encounter the Lord, wanting to find Him, to meet with Him. You're welcome to come to Heartbeat, Houses of Light Prayer Room.